Hey everyone, welcome back to TheTopher Drives, where today we're doing a bit of an afternoon commute in the 2024 Maserati Grecale Trofeo. And man, I've already got a little bit of a fizz going, if I'm honest, because I've always had a thing for Maseratis. I kind of grew up around these cars. My Uncle Chris had two Maseratis, so I've always had this big love, a big place in my heart for these Italian cars. So when Maserati announced this new car that slots right below the Levante, I was quite excited. And this is now the second model year for the Grecale. 23 was the first, this is a 24. And well, I'm super excited to finally be driving it. And I've been living with this Grecale for the past 4 days. So today we're gonna do a commute from Ann Arbor. We'll wind our way down the parking structure, go through the city and out of the city onto the highway, and everything else that we normally do in a commute. So what's under the hood of the Grecale Trofeo? Well, in this car we have the Nettuno 3-liter twin-turbo V6 borrowed from the MC20 supercar. It's a little bit detuned, but in the Grecale it makes 523 horsepower and 457 pound-feet of torque, so it's still no slouch. This SUV's all-wheel drive, and power is sent to all of those wheels via an 8-speed automatic transmission. We do have an active construction site going on right now, so we're just kind of having to power through that, but we'll try and make this walk around brief. I know there's already a ton of videos on the internet on this car, so I kind of just want to focus on driving. Pretty modest design here. My neighbor, it's been sitting in my driveway all week. My neighbor had no idea that it was a Maserati, so that's one thing, but I think it's kind of like a nice mature design, and it kind of reflects some of the design elements from the Gran Turismo, from the MC20. This front end is kind of becoming Maserati's new corporate look, and I quite like it. And it's hard to argue with this special paint. Maserati calls it Blu Atmosfera, which in my mind translates to atmosphere blue, is probably what it means. And very good name for this, because look at all of those little flakes. They kind of look like stars in a night sky. And Maserati lately has just been killing it with their paint colors. I absolutely love this one. Let's pop the hood and show you this Nettuno V6. Beautiful Trofeo badge there on the fender, outlined in red. Ooh, and this is very hot because it is sunny out today. And there it is. Pretty nice little modest engine cover. We've got some chassis bracing here in the middle. In my pocket, I have Maserati's brand new key design, which, if I'm being honest, I don't think I'd like as much as their old one. It isn't quite as heavy and not as unique looking, but still, nonetheless, it's got a pretty good amount of weight to it, and it has this nice leather wrap that goes all the way around. I've had a few issues with this key this week of it just kind of being unresponsive. You have to be really close to it for the car to actually lock or unlock. But anyways, let's show you the trunk here. There we go. Power boot, of course, and in the back, not only do we have a pretty good amount of room and a pretty low load surface here in this Grecale, we have a number of tie downs for if you are carrying things with you, and of course a little privacy shade back there. And under the floor, we have a little storage cubby there up front, which I love to see, because if you're going grocery shopping or something after your long day at work, the last thing you want is a bunch of grocery bags rattling around in the back, flying everywhere, and your watermelon exploding and ruining the back of your Grecale. So some nice little storage solutions there. And we have little bands over here to hold things nice and tight. We can see we're demonstrating that right now with the owner's manual, but you could use that for pretty much anything. So handles right here to fold the seats down. I felt like I just broke that one, so make sure you don't pull on those super hard. But here is our room with the seats down. You can see we have a pretty good amount of room if you need to carry something large. These seats are pretty light and they fold up and down nice and easy. Beautiful Maserati trident there on the quarter panel. Love to see it. Cool. Let's jump in the back. Show you what room is like back here. Back here we've got a couple little indents for the rear passengers to have a little bit of extended legroom. Headroom is nice in this thing, and while we don't have a ton of amenities back here, what you have is all usable. Cup holders, a little spot for your phone there in the middle. You've got a climate panel with heated seats. You've got vents, of course. You've got a USB-A and USB-C. Nothing super crazy like window shades or crazy ambient lighting back here, but it gets the job done, and the actual back seat itself is pretty soft and comfortable. You know, Maserati leather is never really squishy. It usually has a little bit more of a firm feel to it, but it just makes it feel very nice. And I've got to say, overall on this interior, I think they've done a really nice job kind of bringing Maserati to the current decade, because some of the older cars like the interior and the Ghibli and even the Quattroporte, once FCA acquired Maserati in like 2014 or whatever, the interior quality was just kind of garbage. I kind of see the quality coming back now here in these later Maseratis that I've driven, like the MC20, the new Gran Turismo, have all had really, really nice interiors. So let's step into the Grecale and see what we got going on up front. Start stop button is here on the steering wheel. We'll go ahead and fire it up. You can see the mirrors fold out there. And we're gonna get these windows rolled up so we don't have to listen to the construction site anymore. Kind of a weird tint on these back windows. I don't know how well that shows up on camera. Number of different drive modes here on the Grecale: Off-Road Comfort, GT, Sport, and Corsa. I've been driving this thing around in Sport, and let me tell you why. You're able to customize this just a bit more beyond selecting your drive mode. You can hit the suspension button right here in the middle, and that will make it so you don't have to suffer through the super firm ride in this thing around town. You've also got a manual mode with these huge column-mounted paddle shifters. It's nice to see that Maserati is keeping some of their signature features even on their entry-level SUV, so always love to see stuff like that. Additionally in here, I mean, just a really nice mix of materials. We have this raw carbon fiber and this little cubby right here where you can put your phone for wired CarPlay if you'd like, but this does have wireless CarPlay on this 12.3-inch infotainment screen. Below it, a slightly smaller 9-inch screen for our climate control and a number of other things. A lot of functionality here with this screen. You can change what this electronic clock does, which I was very quick to hate on because I loved Maserati's old analog clocks. It's one of the things I remember loving most about my uncle's '09 Quattroporte. But it's okay, don't worry. There is a reason why it's digital. It's because you can switch it to so many different things. You can have 3 different clock designs. You can make it a compass. You can make it demonstrate your acceleration and braking. Pretty cool. And you can also make it a G meter. Inside, of course, as you guys already saw, black leather with red stitching. One of only 3 interior choices for this car. You can have black and red, black and yellow, or you can have a full red interior. I'd probably go with the full red. Additionally, in here, we have a number of different performance gauges you can leave up: turbo, torque, oil pressure, all the things. Got a couple more gauges down here for oil temp, transmission temp, and battery voltage. We have a Sonos Faber sound system in this Grecale, which sounds pretty dang good. We'll test that once we're out of the city. Brief tour over. Let's get on the road and complete our commute here with this Grecale Trofeo. Here we go. So we've got a push button shifter here on the infotainment, essentially. You can see reverse. We have a 360 camera as well as a reverse camera. Pretty good quality here, no real complaints. Now, to put yourself into drive, you can either hit the D/M button here on our little row of shifter buttons, or you can hit the up paddle and that will put you into drive. To me, that's kind of a more straightforward way to do it, and you're not having to reach over there twice. We're gonna start today in GT mode, Grand Touring, to get ourselves down the parking structure. And this is the mode that you're going to be driving this Grecale in most of the time. It's kind of, you know, the secondary mode for me, at least, to sport mode. But if you super want to smooth things out, you can always dial it back one more and go into comfort. In a night setting, we only have a few different options for our ambient lighting. You kind of just can adjust the warmth of it. So if I press the ambient lighting button, you can have warm, neutral, or cool, or you can turn it off completely. So I would maybe like to see a couple more ambient lighting choices. I suppose we'll get the elephant out of the room before I even exit the structure. This car is $110,000, which is like 30 grand more than pretty much everything that it competes with. And that isn't every Grecale. This is the top trim, the Trofeo. The base model, called the GT, and the mid-grade, called the Modena, start at a little bit less money.
Please insert your ticket with the barcode, please. Thank you for your business.
You are so welcome.
Please drive safely.
I certainly will, just for you. We do have auto stop start in this car. Turn it off right there with the button on the 9-inch display. Maserati. Oh, I don't think they were pointing at me. Okay, anyways, let's go. Let's continue on. Steering weight around town is pretty dang light, which I do like. You don't feel like you're having to lug this Grecale around. So how's the ride in this thing around town? Well, we have a 4-corner air suspension in this car, and we have adaptive dampers, which all sounds like it's a recipe for some versatility, you know, some soft driving around town and some firm driving when you want to be sporty. And you'd be correct, but both of those things are very extreme. When it's soft, it's very soft and very floaty. And when it's in Corsa mode, it's so stiff that it feels like it's gonna just take off and start flying. Like if it had wings, it would just sort of leave. A lot of little silly things in this car that really add charm to it, though. I'm not saying this really in a bad way, because I think a lot of the cars now, especially in this segment, are so good that you lack some of that charm and some of that soul, and boy does the Grecale have soul, I'll tell you. We just got to get out of the city first, and then I can demonstrate. You can go, it's your turn. Oh, and it was not your turn. It's interesting to me, the concept of the 4-way stop, how it is so difficult for some people. And then cities rip out the 4-way stop and put in a roundabout, which people struggle even more to grasp. What's really helping me right now in this current situation is the beautiful vent placement on this Grecale. These vents are positioned perfectly to kind of just cool me. Also, the seating position is really nice. Visibility seems to be pretty good out of this thing. Yeah, I'm not mad at this at all. Seating position, I do have the seat all the way down, and I can still see pretty well out of this thing. Around town, throttle tuning is really nice, really progressive. Same with the brake tuning, and I mentioned earlier that the steering is light. So in situations like this, the Grecale is fine. I don't really have any complaints as far as city driving goes. Let's get ourselves around the corner here. I believe graduation is happening down here for the University of Michigan, so I probably picked a not so good day to come and commute, but well, it's all part of the real worldness of these videos. This is what I love. This is the goal of all of these videos all the time, is just to do things like this. Commuting behind somebody on a scooter, love to see it. Okay, let's get out of the city and do a bit of open road driving. I'm going to crack the windows here because we do have a valved exhaust on this Grecale Trofeo, and when you put it into sport mode, it opens those valves. So we'll do that here in a second. I appreciate the drive mode selector being here on the steering wheel, kind of like a Porsche. I'm going to turn off my stiff suspension, and I'm going to select manual mode and use these big column-mounted paddles. This is kind of what I've been doing this week, because this is how you drive a Maserati. I mean, the reason you buy this car, yes, the badge makes a statement, but that's a big reason why I love this car so much, because of the drama, the Italian opera within this Grecale. Ooh, and we have a GR Corolla in front of us. I trust he will kind of escape quickly from the light. Off we go. Right, now that noise is extremely addicting, and it likely contributes to why I've only managed to do 13.4 miles per gallon over my 147 miles driving the Grecale Trofeo. So that's one of the things. Yes, this car will spice up your commute and make it very exciting, but it will also make it very expensive. So you have to, not only fork up the $110,000 to buy this car, but then also fork up the many dollars to fill it up at least once a week, to kind of just feed your addiction to using these big metal steering column mounted paddle shifters. You can even do it when you're not even trying to go quickly. I mean, hold on. You're just kind of skipping around town. You can make lots of little joyous, very theatrical noises with this car. And it's a really good size. I mean, like, it's agile enough to where you can kind of just squeeze it into small places. Put these windows up so you guys can hear me. And it's almost like Mini Cooper-ish in that way, where it's kind of just like a little chihuahua. Like, it's very just kind of just wanting to kind of weave traffic and make farting noises. There's no real drama on the down rev. Every once in a while, you'll get the odd kind of pop and bang from the exhaust, but it's definitely not predictable, which I kind of like. You can also grab both paddles and put yourself into neutral if you want to kind of smoothly roll to a halt instead of downshifting into first gear, and then you can put yourself back into first by selecting that right paddle. So lots of good ergonomics for sporty driving and not kind of, you know, jerking yourself around when you're trying to do city driving in manual mode, which I do appreciate. The only thing I will say is you are able to get pretty similar dynamics and noises and feeling in the Stelvio Quadrifoglio. So the kind of bane of this car's existence is the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, which is kind of a cousin of this car, kind of just like in the same family. We are first in line at a set of lights, so that can only really mean one thing, especially in the Grecale Trofeo. Okay, demonstration there of the fact that this car will hold gears and bounce off the rev limiter, which does also make a really cool sound. And sometimes if you hit limiter like I just did, you get a cool like double fart. Maseratis usually do this thing to me where I live with them all week and I get a little bit irritated by certain aspects of the car. The annoyances in this car this week have been the real floatiness of the suspension at highway speeds when you're in comfort mode, the key fob just being kind of dim-witted and you having to be a foot from the car for it to work, the proxy key never really working right, all just sort of normal Italian car things that are very irritating to live with on a day-to-day basis. But then you forget all of that when you get in it and you turn this silly little dial on the steering wheel. All of the annoyances go away because you're just engulfed by the soul of this car. I mean, listen. 2 little shifts and then immediately hard on the brakes to come to a stop. There it is. Sitting in traffic, even when you're just in GT mode, you can definitely feel this V6 idling. It's not the smoothest engine at idle. You do have auto start stop, which you can toggle on and off, but it's not really the smoothest transition when the car does shut itself off. While we are just sitting here in traffic, let's show you some of the different configurations for your cluster. You can switch what's in both of the gauge pods. I often get overwhelmed by like having too many things on the cluster, so generally I've got just my speed in the middle and nothing in either gauge pod. But if you want the entire cluster to look differently, you're able to make it go backwards like an Aston Martin, or you can just completely get rid of everything and give yourself what they call the relaxed gauge cluster display. And then it's just your speed, which is kind of cool. I like that they have the option. You know, when a car has full digital gauges, you might as well just be able to get rid of everything and have a calm screen. Another thing I noticed in here that I really like is this stitching on the airbag cover. Is always a nice touch when you're spending over $100 grand on a car. Give me a leather-wrapped airbag cover and a leather-wrapped dash and leather-wrapped extremities in my footwell, which, speaking of the footwell, has a pretty good amount of room. Even when you're man-spreading, your legs don't even really touch the surfaces. And if they did, the one on the right, it's got a little bit of squish to it, but the one on the left is pretty rock hard. Elbow comfiness, pretty good in this car. Typical Stellantis things, they kind of just have that foamy feel to them on the center console as well as the door panel. And before we continue, we're going to do something that every Grecale owner will have to do on their way home from work, and that is stop and get some petrol. I'm about to have to give this car to the TheTopher, and I don't want to give it to him with no fuel. So we're going to go ahead and fill her up, and then we'll continue on our trip. Push button there into park, stop start button is on the steering wheel. Cool little Trofeo animation there. Automatically applying parking brake, and we have comfort access, so the seat will move back and the steering wheel will move up. So all good things. But no capless fill for your $110,000. Tighten until cap clicks or mother-in-law may turn on. Okay, noted. too, brother. Let's get this Maserati Grecale back on the road. Oh, another annoying thing is you have to accept this message. It doesn't just go away when you drive. You have to accept it literally every single time. Get out of the way. Get out of my way. We're racing to be in more traffic. The reality of it all. Traffic. Oh, yes. Very good. Okay, let's be for real for a second here. Into GT mode, back into drive, and once we get up to speed here, we'll talk about some highway manners on the Grecale. This is a pretty good car to drive on the highway until you're like hitting some uneven pavement or making lane changes above like 80 miles an hour. It gets really, really floaty, and hopefully we'll be able to see that once we switch highways. But in the meantime, let's do a quick sound system test here on this Sonus Faber sound system, which I think these are only in Maseratis, but they've been in the last 3 that I've driven, the MC20, the Gran Turismo, and now this Grecale, and they've been pretty good in all of those cars. I mean, I don't really have any major complaints, and I like to see some different brands coming out for sound systems, because everything nowadays is just Harman or a sub-brand of Harman, so it's cool to see something different. We're going to use this song, which is a new one that I've been using just because I've got it here, easy access. Hold on. We need to pause for a sec. Very, very important work to take care of here. Another one up here. We're going to do this one too. Okay. All right, I'm good. All right, let's resume the song. This has been me all week with this car. One of those sound systems that you kind of just feel like you can swim in. It's got really, really nice punches for bass and really nice high highs. I mean, Sonus Faber is no joke, and it's acceptable, and you know, it's what you'd expect in a car of this caliber and a car in this price bracket. You would want something this good, and they've certainly delivered with this sound system. I love that Maserati kind of has this unique to them as well. Highway manners overall, let's talk about it. Well, we have a couple different cruise control modes here. You can turn on our adaptive cruise with the middle button, or you can turn on traditional cruise with this button over here to the right. And you can do your distance adjustment here for your adaptive cruise. Honestly, all of this works just fine. It does also have a lane keep assist system as well. I've got that turned off right now. Pretty good. The only thing I'll say, and I'll kind of expand on what I was saying earlier, it feels a little unsettled on the highway. Like it kind of just feels like it doesn't know how to ride smoothly, like or it's almost overcompensating in a way, trying to ride smoothly with these adaptive dampers. So a little bit of a strange feeling here on the highway. And I'm exiting left up here before you yell at me for driving in the middle, because I already know that you're typing a comment out, but spare me please this one time. All right, well, before we wrap up today, let's do a quick little circuit of the test loop, because we can't go an entire Grecale Trofeo video without showing you what this car can do. I think this is one of those SUVs that you could sell to your spouse in such a way, if they are kind of against the idea of it, that it could be the ultimate daily, because you could use it every day and maybe even sneak in some track time on the weekends. So let's go ahead and put this thing, we'll start in sport mode, because in my opinion, sport is kind of just as aggressive as you would ever need in this thing. But then we'll roll in, what's it called, Corsa. We'll roll in Corsa mode a bit as well. The amount of front end lift you get from this car under acceleration is hysterical. It feels like it gains like 18 inches of ground clearance in the front. I also forget that this thing revs over 7,000 RPM. I want to say it sputters out around like 7,400 or something like that. And I find myself short shifting it because the red line starts at 6,500 RPM. So you think, oh, that's all I have. But no, you have like another 1,000 RPM past the indicated red line. Okay, let's go into Corsa mode. That is going to stiffen everything up just that much more. This is the mode where it feels like the car is going to pop a wheelie. You have so much front end lift on this thing. It's so quick. The steering is really sharp in Corsa as well. But I don't know if you all can see by how much the camera is kind of juddering around. The GoPro's probably stabilizing all of that, but it is so stiff in Corsa mode. I mean, I feel like I'm in a Lotus Exige right now. Launch control is a bit of a process, so make sure you've got a good amount of emptiness around you. Come to a complete stop, hold the right paddle for 2 seconds, let go of the right paddle, hit the right paddle again, full effort brake until that gets to 100%. And that's launch control in the Grecale Trofeo. Maserati brother! As you can see, I really do like it. And it's a little bit tough for me because as much as I love this car, I don't know that I would necessarily recommend it to any of my like level-headed friends or like people that genuinely want a really good commuter car. But if you're someone that's a little bit chaotic, someone that likes to make some noise, or just somebody that wants something a little bit different than all of the other kind of German counterparts to this car, then this would be a good choice. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, lots of little Italian car annoyances like proxy key not working properly and some of the suspension tuning being a little bit weird. But overall, I think Maserati has kind of graduated to a level now where they are building pretty solid products. And like, there hasn't really been anything this week on this car that's like made me laugh at it for being a Maserati. Like, nothing's fallen off the interior. It hasn't caught on fire. It's just, I think they're at the point now to where they're making genuine competitors in the segment. And that's a great thing because I love Maserati. I don't want them to go anywhere. So this car kind of validates that Maserati has, for lack of a better term, gotten their shit together. And they've kind of seen that if they didn't start making things that were genuinely competitive in the market, that they weren't going to survive much longer. So this car is kind of a testament to that. And, you know, don't be scared of this thing. I think that it'll be just fine. If I were you, I would wait a couple of years to get it, or just go and lease it, because who cares? But my honest thoughts on this car, I think it's a riot. I think it would be hilarious on track. I've had a ton of fun putting like 160 miles on this car this week. And if you guys want even more thoughts, you can head over to the TheTopher channel. He'll have a review on this car as well. But really just a fun thing, an SUV in this segment that has some soul, that has some character, that has some DNA. I could find myself, I think, kind of talking to this car, and that came off a little bit different than I wanted it to. But my point here is I've genuinely enjoyed driving this, not only as a commuter, not only as a daily, but as a driver's car. I mean, that's at the end of the day kind of what this is. Hopefully that review made enough sense for you. I know it was all over the place. I do apologize. Sometimes there's just a little bit of chaos that comes along with the environment when filming these, and that's just that. So cool, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. As always, leave any questions that you have in the comments. Some god-awful thing is going by right now, because like I said, I've lived with this thing all week. So yeah, cool. All right, well, thanks again for watching. That'll be it for this one. See you next time. Take care.